it's more important for him to handle the Taiwan question carefully, and maybe you can say to rein in Taiwan separatism, to keep Lai Ching-te, the current Taiwanese leader, on a short leash.
During Trump's first presidency, we saw he had a pretty decent relationship with former leader Tsai Ing-wen. Back then, many supporters of the DPP thought of Trump as pro-Taiwan. But today, it seems like Trump almost views our current leader, Lai Ching-te, as a nuisance. Why is this?
Yeah, just like what you said, I remembered about 2020, most of DPP supporters were also supporters for Donald Trump, and they hated Biden at that time. But today, many DPP supporters will think of Trump as seems like not pro-Taiwan as before. And also, just like what you said, many people will think Trump thinks of Lai Ching-te as a nuisance. So why? I think although Trump's attitude toward Taiwan, especially present attitude toward Taiwan, seems different from his first presidency, the very fact has never changed that he's thinking of Taiwan as a chess piece for the United States to counter China. And the difference is, in his first presidency, he used to adopt so-called maximum pressure strategy against Beijing. So Taiwan question seemed a useful tool for him to pressure Beijing. So at that time, Tsai Ing-wen's separatism seemed useful and just accorded with Donald Trump's policy at that time. But gradually, Donald Trump felt that the strategy seemed ineffective for the United States to deal with Beijing gradually. For example, Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan in 2022, it not only failed to force Beijing to give up the red line, but also just provided an opportunity for Beijing to normalize their military movements around the island of Taiwan. And also, there have been so many conflicts around the world, such as Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, and India, Pakistan. So many conflicts compelled the United States to give up, to be involved into so many conflicts, and the United States is unable to handle so many wars simultaneously. So for Donald Trump, he should adjust the relations with Beijing. And it's better for him to bargain with rather than to combat with Beijing. So today, it's more important for him to handle the Taiwan question carefully. And maybe you can say to rein in Taiwan separatism, to keep Lai Ching-te, the current Taiwanese leader, on a short leash. So that's why I think he thinks of Lai Ching-te as a nuisance, as a troublemaker. And also, in addition, remember, when the United States can show their support for Taiwan independence strongly, when they should adopt so-called maximum pressure strategy against Beijing, they can also demonstrate their ability to control Taiwan independence for Beijing. On the other hand, to create bargaining chips with Beijing. So it's why Trump seems different from his first presidency.
It seems to me like Taiwan separatists have always been in the position from the U.S. as dogs on a leash. If they want to apply pressure to Beijing, they loosen up the leash to let the dogs charge forward. But then when they get what they want from Beijing, they're like, okay, come back.
Yes.
You only bite when we tell you to.
Yeah.
And I think a good representation of the shifting attitudes of the United States towards Taiwan could be seen in the recent tariff negotiations. Taiwan got a pretty bad deal compared to South Korea and Japan. And oftentimes, people in Taiwan like to compare ourselves to South Korea and Japan as reliable United States allies in the region. And this is despite complying with U.S. demands to set up TSMC fabrication plants in Arizona. So, to you, what does this signal about the relationship between Taiwan and the U.S., as well as the relations between Beijing and Washington?
I think Trump's treatment for Taiwan in recent times, especially in recent tariff negotiations, signals his eagerness for selling out Taiwan. How to say that? I think Donald Trump thinks that Taiwan may be reunified by Beijing unavoidably in the near future. So it's better for him to bargain with Beijing rather than to combat with Beijing.
So like a soft landing rather than a crash.
Yes, and because the United States is going to lose Taiwan in the near future. So it's more important for him to suck Taiwan dry as possible as they can, to extract any valuable things in Taiwan as soon as possible. So the United States demand for TSMC to increase investments into the United States is an explicit example, as TSMC's manufacturer of advanced chips is so crucial to the United States. So it's more important for America to move the TSMC instead of leave it in Taiwan, So although some Taiwanese politicians argue that we can gain more the United States assistance in defense by sacrificing TSMC, I think it's totally ridiculous because without TSMC, Taiwan is invaluable in Donald Trump's eyes. So furthermore, with the weapon of tariff, the United States just can compel Taiwan to sacrifice more for the United States. And so-called the implied commitment to come to Taiwan's defense is also another bargaining chips for the United States to demand Taiwan more, and especially expensive military procurements. And in short, Trump believes that the commitment to come to Taiwan's defense is not essential for the United States' strategy against Beijing. He told the media for several times that he refused to guarantee Taiwan's defense because he should also negotiate things with Beijing. So it's so clear that he only cares about how to suck Taiwan dry as soon as possible instead of Taiwan's safety or Taiwanese interests and so on. So I think it's totally ridiculous for DPP's politicians always cheating Taiwanese people that we can gain more benefits, we can gain more safety from their states by sacrificing A, sacrificing B, sacrificing C. But the most important and the most valuable thing for Taiwan is TSMC. And they just sacrificed it in the beginning of the negotiations. So Taiwan is going to be sucked dry. It's so clear, but I don't know why so many politicians in Taiwan just avoid that fact and keep on cheating the Taiwanese people that we can gain more benefits from the United States. We can gain the commitment for our safety by sacrificing our economic and our so many interests.
It seems to me like the United States government behaves like an abusive husband, and the Taiwan authorities administration acts like an abused wife who still, for some reason, loves her husband, even though the husband is treating her very badly. The DPP treats its voters like a very abusive partner. It's like, okay, if you're not with me, who else is going to take care of you? Who else is going to look after your interests? You are nothing without us. Mm-hmm. That's the feeling I get from the DPP. Recently, the director of AIT, so the American Institute in Taiwan, Raymond Green, the director, held a meeting with the chairman of the oppositional TPP, Mr. Huang Guochang, as well as 5 legislators from the KMT. Now, usually the AIT works with whichever party is incumbent. So right now, they should only really be having correspondence with the DPP. And it's very unusual for them to have high-profile meetings with the opposition.
Yes.
So do you think there is any significance to this? And is the U.S. further signaling its disappointment in the troublemaker Lai Ching-te?
First of all, I think the very fact we should still understand is either DPP or KMT is puppet controlled by Washington. Yeah, both of them are proxy of the United States in Taiwan.
Every now and then there are people in the KMT who are not puppets, but then the U.S. kind of
yes,
like Miss Hong Shou-ju,
they just change it. They cannot even attend the election. Needless to say, winning the campaign. So both of two parties in Taiwan are puppets of the United States, and even the third largest party in Taiwan, TPP, 民众党, Taiwan People's Party, they still dare not to disobey the United States will, right? So I think the change of AIT's attitude toward Kuomintang and DPP is because during the past decade, since the United States adopted what I just mentioned, maximum pressure strategy against Beijing, DPP seemed to be more useful than KMT for the United States at that time, because DPP always keeps an extreme ideology of Taiwan independence and counter-China policy. So it just accords with the United States' needs at that time. And on the other hand, KMT preferred to engage Beijing, to still have stable relations with Beijing and keep balance between the United States and Chinese mainland. And also KMT preferred to ask the United States for some exchange when Taiwan sacrifice our interests. And KMT will say, okay, I sacrifice and you need to pay back something in exchange for us. So it seemed not so useful, not as useful as DPP. But gradually, what I just mentioned, the United States shifted their strategic approach to Beijing, and the situation has changed recently. Lai Ching-te cannot control the majority of legislature in Taiwan, and also he totally failed in so-called great recourse against KMT legislators just recently. So for the United States, it's realistic for them to win the support from the opposition for their sales to Taiwan, especially military sales to Taiwan. And also, Donald Trump dislikes the loser. And Lai Ching-te is just a loser now.
I don't like losers. I like winners.
Yeah, so that's why Lai Ching-te cannot gain the United States support or preference. And also, I think AIT's shift of the attitude toward Kuomintang also is a signal of their estimate of the high possibility of the victory by Kuomintang in 2028 Taiwan's campaign.
Yeah, that basically summarizes the situation in my opinion. And also, I think another error that Lai Ching-te's camp made is back in 2024, Lai Ching-te's camp erroneously believed that Kamala Harris would beat Donald Trump. So through Miss Xiao Mei-qin, Xiao Bi-kim, they cozied up to the Democrats a little bit too much. And Donald Trump's personality is, I don't like people who are friends with my enemies. So I think Donald Trump held a grudge. Not to mention, Lai Ching-te invited Mike Pompeo to Taiwan shortly before the inauguration, and Donald Trump hates Mike Pompeo.
I don't know why they always invited Donald Trump's enemy to Taiwan, and they think it's a good opportunity for them to enhance the relations with the United States. I don't know why, because I think DPP, if they want to become a puppet of the United States, they really need to know who is in power in Washington.
What are the qualitative differences between Trump's handling of the Taiwan question and Biden's handling of the situation? And how do these differences impact Taiwan? And specifically, I know you mentioned this a lot already, the shift from maximum pressure on Beijing to more of a reconciliatory
Bargaining.
Yeah. What do you make of this situation?
Well, generally speaking, Taiwan is considered to be a chess piece by not only Biden, but also Trump. The qualitative difference is their way how to play the so-called Taiwan card. And for Biden, he tried to strengthen the relations with the allies in Indo-Pacific, including Taiwan. And he made efforts to arm Taiwan to the teeth in his presidency. And he believed that it could be a good deterrence, a successful deterrence against Beijing by arming Taiwan. And he also thought that even Beijing still takes military action against Taiwan, a well-armed Taiwan can let Beijing into a big trap and to weaken Chinese mainland's development and to lead into a big loss for Beijing. That's Biden's opinion. But on the other hand, for Donald Trump, he doesn't believe Taiwan's self-defense ability anymore. He thinks if war breaks out, Taiwan's military can only hold on within several hours and to a week. So it's useless for the United States to combat with Beijing to conquer Chinese mainland.
And right now there are 3 aircraft carriers from the People's Liberation Army. And that's already changing the power balance within the region, especially within the first island chain. I think once the 4th aircraft carrier is launched, then the U.S. does not have much military leverage in the region anymore. We're already seeing troops from Ryukyu or Okinawa being shipped back to Guam.
The 2nd or to the 3rd island chain. Right?
Exactly. So that signals that the U.S. is not very optimistic.
And it's unable to get into so many conflicts simultaneously.
Exactly.
So when there are conflicts in Middle East and at the same time in Russia, Ukraine, the United States is in a big trouble. So that's why Donald Trump shifted his strategy against China. He thinks what I just mentioned for several times, to bargain is better than to combat with Beijing. And Taiwan's authorities should worry not only when the United States weakens their support for Taiwan separatism, but also when the United States encourages Taiwan to cross the red line. Because in the former situation, DPP should worry about being abandoned by Washington. And in the latter situation, they should also worry about Taiwan should fight against Beijing without aid and alone. Since that is so, why don't we negotiate with Beijing by we Chinese ourselves for a peaceful unification instead of becoming a pawn of the United States?
Exactly. That would be like if the United States told me to go have a fist fight with Guanzhang. I'm not going to do it.
Because, you know, this game will be lost, definitely.
Yeah.